again, I had a lot of misconceptions when it came to nutrition. Like I thought I was eating well when I was eating granola and oat milk, and I was vegetarian and protein yogurt, and like when after doing that, like I'd stopped eating granola completely, and
Our grandparents ate food from farms. We eat food from factories, and it's making us metabolically sick. The products advertised as healthy, low fat, high fibre, are things our grandparents wouldn't even recognise as food. Modern food products are slowly damaging our bodies, disrupting our digestion, and clouding our minds. You're a high performer, you're running teams, hiring people, getting investment. You haven't got time to be tracking calories. You haven't got time to be following strict meal plans. And the constant pressure means that you're left confused about what to do at client lunches, at family dinners. The fitness industry tells you to count every calorie, follow rigid meal plans, or cut out entire food groups. That's why most executives fail. The truth is, you are not the problem. The approach is. In the next 21 minutes, I'm going to reveal a simple, flexible eating system that fuels your body, burns fat, and builds muscle without obsessing over apps or restrictions. This is the Easy Eating System. This is episode 3 of our 6-part mini-series in which I want to show you how to build $1 million body without extreme diets, without hours in the gym, without long, boring cardio, because that stuff is not sustainable. This is for people who are founders, executives, entrepreneurs who have the finances, but they don't have the time. Whereas most fitness content is just focused on the young fellas who got loads of time but no money. They are the gym bros, the guys who only want to get fit for a photo shoot, which I think is a little bit embarrassing, to be honest. I don't get it myself. My whole journey started, and why you should listen to me, is because I am a 43-year-old man. I have 3 young children. I've lived and worked in the corporate world. I know what it's like to be at the C-suite level where you put everything above your health. Simple as that. In the last 10 years, I've dedicated my life to helping people like I was back in the day. And I worked with many big high-profile companies featured in the media. So far, so good. But this whole mini-series is to show you the system. And you can just copy this, apply this, and you'll be flying. And this episode is the one that most people want to know about. Nutrition, eating. It's called the Easy Eating System. And it's called that because we don't track calories for the long term because it's not sustainable. We don't follow a meal plan because if you're out on a client dinner or you're home with the wife and kids, you can't be eating something different, completely different. I mean, eating should be sociable. Fitness should improve our life, not hinder it. So I'm going to draw your attention now to the whiteboard. The digital whiteboard, that is. Not this whiteboard behind me that my kids scribble on. You see that? No one cares about people. No one cares about other people's kids, do they? Especially blokes. So let's zoom out here a little bit. Just a bunch of half-naked men, you know. So how I get my kicks? So, should I move my face? No, let's move the fellas. Get down there, boys. That sounds a bit dodgy. A bit homoerotic, but whatever. Now, in this lineup, we see the same man, but at different stages of his body fat journey. Here, at one end, we have 35%, and at the other end, we have 8%, which I was lower than 8%. I was 6.5%. Ridiculous. So because we're talking about food here, and we're talking about body fat percentages, let me give you, and we'll get into these fellas in a second, but let me tell you about my experience with food and my extreme diets, right? Just a very quick overview. I used to be vegan. I did that really for moral superiority, to be honest. So I could flex my, I could gloat basically and be like, I'm a vegan and it's in my Instagram bio. And I watched too many Netflix documentaries. Propaganda, which is what that is. Now, I agree that factory farming is destructive, especially what they do in the States. But we, as humans, are carnivores, and we should be eating animal products. I went from omnivore, eating a bit of everything, but mostly takeaways and getting fat. And therefore, because I got fat, I thought, okay, what's the opposite of a fat slob like I am? Well, it's a yoga going, hemp wearing vegan. So that's what I became. It went so far as I retrained as a yoga teacher and led yoga retreats, led teacher trainings. I went all in. But my health suffered tremendously. And I got down to such a low body percent. I might put a photograph up here of it. Such a low percentage body fat that when someone came in to our office, a nurse for our health checkup, for insurance and stuff, she said, you're drastically underweight in terms of your body fat percentage, and it's really not good for you. And I was noticing I was getting sick quite a lot, colds and flus. And although I looked very lean, I didn't have much energy. I was quite weak as well. So I went from that to carnivore. And as a carnivore, this is when I moved to Korea, I was eating beef, salmon, and that's it. Really, the fattiest cuts as well. And then because of that, I had chronic diarrhea. Because eventually your colon, which is part of your large intestine, can't absorb all that fat. So you then go through what's called fat malabsorption. Basically, just goes straight through you. And that's also very bad. So now I have a good balance, which is what I teach in this system. And I've never in my life counted a calorie for more than a week. Like the reason I advise people to count a calorie for their first week on my programs is just to get an idea of how much they're eating. Because sometimes people are eating 5,000 calories and they think they're eating 2. And just so you have an idea, and it kind of shocks the system into making a change. But going forward, you can't count calories. It's just not sustainable. And then when it's not sustainable, you feel like, oh, I've failed here, and you give up, and then you're back in the cycle. So, what is a healthy body fat percentage? Now, with these chaps, for a man, as you age, your body fat is going to increase slightly. Slightly is the key word. Because really, our metabolism doesn't slow down. That's my wife. No, she's not coming in. Because of our life, it slows down because of our habits. Now, if we look at this chart here, when you want to find out what your body fat percentage is, don't bother with calipers or even those machines that put a current through your body. They're fairly accurate, but they can, there's an element of error there, right? So just initially, when you first start, instead of looking towards devices or scales, look at this chart here, okay, and see where you are. Now, essentially, if you're past this line and you're to the left, you're overweight. I don't care how much you actually weigh. This is all about body composition, because you can have two men that weigh the same, but they don't look the same. They can. One can have more muscle, less fat. One can have more fat, less muscle. So the same weight, but the composition is key. Now, I'm going to scoot this down a little bit. Now, that's the thing about being lean, is that when you hear the word lean, you think, okay, I'm going to tone up, so therefore I'm going to move more and eat less. But in fact, you need to eat more of the right stuff, which I'll show you in a second. Eat more and move, not necessarily move more, but move with force, i.e. lifting load. In other words, lifting weights. That's critical, which we're going to go into in the next episode, the simple strength system. So let me bring you back to our whiteboard. Now, this is your plate here on the left-hand side. I'll zoom out slightly. And your plate should be, I'm going to shock you now in a second, I'll leave it to last, but a quarter is carbohydrates. Now, carbohydrates can include vegetables and starchy carbs, like potatoes, rice, pasta. Right, so you got carbs, fat, right, and this is good fats like avocado, eggs, and arguably eggs is a protein and a fat, but let's say avocado, olive oil. And then here, I'm going to put it in slightly bolder, is protein. 50% of your plate, 50% should be protein. And I mean high quality animal protein. Right, what's a good color for protein? Let's go red, because red signifies blood. Right. This, whenever you look at your plate, you see that 50% is protein. And what's interesting is they did a study, McDonald's did a study that is, of what happens through buyers' habits when they introduce the digital checkouts. So this means that you could go into McDonald's and you could order whatever you like without having to speak to a human, and you just collect it from the counter. And what they noticed was, in McDonald's, most people, most men, were ordering 2 burgers with every meal. So they wanted more protein, but they wouldn't do that at the counter in front of with a person, because the theory is they felt shame. You feel like a glutton. Why is it that every time we sit down to eat a meal, we get 1 chicken breast? Why not 2? Why not 3? Why isn't half the plate protein? We are drastically under-eating protein. And to make it, to really simplify it, and this is what you need to know, in terms of how much protein, we should be eating 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. One gram protein per pound of body weight. Because forget what the, right, controversial thing to say here, but forget what the RDA is by the government. That's the bare minimum to not fall apart. That's what they advise. I mean, look at the general population. They're sick. They're metabolically sick. So you shouldn't be thinking what the average is that people have. Forget the average. You want to be exceptional in every realm of your life. So the RDA, the recommended daily intake, or allowance, is not enough for building muscle. And as we age, we experience sarcopenia, which is muscle wastage. Therefore, we need to be eating more protein as we get older and lifting weights more and more, because we don't just stay the same. Like our body is slowly deteriorating every single day that we don't exercise through strength training. I'm not talking about cardio here. Right, anyway, let's get back to the grub, shall we? So with our food and our carbohydrates, now I mentioned pasta. Okay, I'm going to make this yellow because a lot of carbs are yellow, aren't they? Now, with our carbohydrates, it's really important that we're eating carbohydrates around our workouts. So say, for example, pasta is fine, but rice is better, easier to digest. And especially around a workout, because it's going to give us instant energy, especially white rice. Whereas potatoes are a slower digesting carbohydrate. So you can think of it this way: rice for bulking if you want to put on weight, potatoes for cutting if you want to shed weight. That's a good way of thinking about it. And when it comes to fiber, you having vegetables, especially with the skins on, like potatoes, is going to slow down your digestion. So people say no carb or low carb. We want slow carb. That's what we want our digestion. That's going to stop us snacking, because otherwise, if we eat highly processed carbohydrates, let's say you just eat a big bowl of pasta with no protein in it, your blood glucose level is going to spike up, and then it's going to crash down, and then you're going to crave the sweeties, the chocolates, the biscuits, or the coffee, right? Which is going to affect your sleep, and then that cycle goes on. Now, fats. Eating fat doesn't make you fat. Fat, let's go with blue, is essential for hormone production. So as we get older, as a fella, they say our testosterone goes down. It's 1% every year after 30. And while to a degree this is inevitable, it's going to decline slightly, the fats are critical for correct hormone regulation. Like take, for example, eggs. You have cholesterol within eggs, essential for the brain. I mean, look at the amount of dementia cases, how dementia is becoming so prolific these days. And it's a theory, but the brain is mostly fat. So we need to feed it fat. And cholesterol is a precursor to testosterone. You will struggle to produce testosterone without cholesterol. And again, a controversial thing to say, but the link to cholesterol and heart disease, I believe, has been bastardized by the mainstream medical people. And if you look at the old strongmen from back in the day, they used to eat tons of eggs. But now we live in a world where we eat egg whites. You're messing with nature, okay? And there's no, it doesn't turn out well. So eat your fats, eggs, avocado, olive oil is incredible, but stay away from fats that are highly processed, like seed oils, sunflower oil, rapeseed oil. This is because they cause inflammation. And you might not even be fat. You might just be severely inflamed, bloated like I was. I was a bit fat as well, but you know. But eating fat doesn't make you fat. Just to clarify that. Let's go back to our whiteboard of one last time. Now, if we go across to, you've probably heard the word macros, right? So that's actually what we have on our left-hand side. But I'm going to just, unless you're really not clear. So macros, protein, fats, carbs. Now, you've got macros, but you've also got micros. These are the nutrients within the food, so vitamins, minerals. The thing is, if you're eating from a farm and not a factory or a supermarket, a farm via a supermarket, you don't need to concern yourself with micros. Multivitamins are a waste of time. It's a scam. I mean, like, come on, man. Our grandparents never ate those things. And our grandparents had multiple children, lived for years, worked till they died, physical work. They'd never seen a multivitamin. But they were eating from a farm, not a factory. Now, admittedly, they were eating from soil that was a lot more enriched than our soil probably is, which makes a difference. But if we can eat from a farm, then that is going to give us all the minerals we need. So let me show you what I mean. Just a typical example, right? You could sit down and let's say our food, so our protein, just a typical meal. Now, I'm not going to give you a meal plan because how to do it is easy, really. Just put into any AI, ChatGPT, whatever version we're on now, whatever Google's AI is, and be like, give me a meal plan for the day. But we need to know why are we doing it and what should we be eating. Okay, so why we're doing it is because, quick recap before we finish up, is we want optimal hormone production through having the right fats. We want optimal muscle building through having enough quality protein. And we want optimal energy production through having the right carbohydrates, slow carbs. So carbs aren't bad, it's just the type that we have. So once we have that and we know our basic macros and our macro split, which is on this side, then we're going to figure out an example meal. So steak. Who doesn't like steak? Eggs. Potatoes. The end. Really, right? So steak, especially if we get like a leaner cut, you've got one of the most nutrient-dense foods in the world with red meat. That can include lamb as well, but lamb is often much fattier than beef. Then with your eggs, you have the essential fats, right? The cholesterol. But not just fat and protein with eggs, you have all the minerals that come with eggs, which no one even thinks about because it looks like just two things, the yolk and the white. But they have different properties and different benefits. And then potatoes with the skins on, because that's going to slow down digestion, are essential for things like potassium. Right? And as I mentioned in the last episode, potassium is is part of an electrolyte, so it's really important for muscle recovery. And if you just lived on steak, eggs, and potatoes, you would be top 1% in the world in terms of health and fitness and vitality. It's called the easy eating system because it involves eating, it's a system, and it's easy. So I hope that was helpful for you. In the next episode, which is up here, we're going to talk about the simple strength system. How you can do just 3 times 30-minute sessions in the gym that you'll actually enjoy and you'll see results. Click here for that.